everybody, I'm Jenna Seaborn and we're here in the Heath Center Art Gallery with Nick Sorrill, and we're here with his new exhibit. What's it called?
It's called Exploring Abstract Expression.
And as you can see behind us, we have some fabulous new artwork that we'd love for you to come check out.
Yeah, so this body of work kind of represents some of the things that I've been doing over the last 3 to 4 years. It all encompasses abstract expressionism, and these pieces specifically are part of a body of my earliest work from about 4 years ago that deal with fluid style painting. This piece right here particularly is one of my favorites, and it goes along with another piece that we're going to see here in a moment. This style of painting is, you can probably tell by looking at it, a fluid drip and splash style painting. Very much inspired by Jackson Pollock. I studied him quite a bit, and I really loved his work, so I wanted to try and replicate that. However, he was very well known for using the all-over method of drip and splash painting, and I wanted to kind of distinguish myself from that and do something a little bit different, and so I kind of coined a term called precision drip and splash, where you use that technique but in a very precise way.
It looks controlled, but I like it.
Yeah, kind of like controlled chaos in a way.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. And so by being very precise with the motion and that action style painting, I was able to actually create focal points and points of interest and semi-recognizable subject matter. Astronomy and things like that I think are really cool, so I touch on some different things like that. And then from there it kind of evolved. I continued on with some of the fluid style painting, and went into pour painting, which is what these over here represent. So this is another piece that's part of that series of the precision drip and splash. As you can see, very similar style, a little bit of a different color scheme. This one's called Planetary Formation, and it kind of ties in with the other one that I just showed. And again, you can see the action style painting, the repetition of movements, and it creates a very, very energetic feel to the overall piece, and I really like that. This is a style that I haven't kind of done for a while, but it's always something that I've kind of wanted to go back to. And then of course over to the left, some other good representation of some of my fluid style pour paintings.
So these are some of your earlier works on this side of the gallery?
Yep, so these fluid paintings represent what I was doing basically from 2016, the summer of 2016, all the way through probably the summer of 2017, so about a year span. I was really focusing on fluid style painting using acrylic. And one thing I guess I should probably touch on, these drip and splash paintings are actually interior latex house paint. And some of these other acrylic pouring are more artist acrylics mixed with pouring mediums and stuff like that. So after I kind of felt like I had enough of fluid painting, I really started getting into textured stuff. And the first type of medium that I was using that I really started getting into texture was Encaustic. This, however, is one of my acrylic paintings, and so this is a combination of acrylic medium mixed with natural sand and black lava, which are some really, really cool textured mediums to work with. I don't know why, I just kind of fell in love with it. It felt natural to me to create these textures, not only that you can see, but if you were allowed to touch it, you could actually feel it. This is an encaustic style painting, and it's used, I use the accretion method style of painting, which is basically just building up layers. And encaustic is hot wax, so you just build up layers of hot wax, and depending on which direction you apply the wax has a lot to do with which direction the wax tends to grow, if you will. And it's a really fun process.
So when you do this, is it laying flat on your work table, or is it on an easel? How does that work?
Yeah, so I like to work with my substrate or panel or whatever I'm using flat on a table. I don't know why. It just feels easier for me and more natural when I'm doing certain types of paintings, but definitely with this style for sure. So the paintings, the encaustic paintings on the other side and these two, I kind of want to touch on that a little bit. Those were all part of an art demonstration that I did at the Quincy Art Center last summer, summer of 2019 for the Art Fest. And so I had a booth set up there and I was demonstrating how to do this process. We ended up getting rained out, so I had to finish these pieces later in the studio. But that's kind of where the name came from on the other side, and then these two kind of spoke to me as far as the cool and the warm there, so they kind of got a little bit of a different name. But one of the things that I learned from Joe Conover, like I was kind of talking about encaustic and textures and stuff like that, he really taught me everything that I know about encaustic and creating textures and stuff like that. And so as I kind of graduated from encaustic and trying to apply these texture techniques that I learned to acrylic medium, which is what I am more attuned to and generally prefer, I started looking at ways that I could try and create really heavily textured pieces within my acrylic work. And in his studio, he just happened to have this bag of industrial quartz sand that he uses for different things. And I decided to try and mix that with my paint and different acrylic mediums. And in doing so, it's created this amazing textured feel to the surface of these paintings. It almost feels like when it dries, it almost feels like a concrete or a cement, and it creates really hard edges. And so it's texture you can see and texture you can feel, and I've just kind of gone nuts with it here lately, and that's pretty much all I've been doing.
Are they heavy to move?
They're not too heavy. These two larger pieces on the outside, they're on a stretched canvas. The one in the middle is actually a custom cradled artist board, so it's a little bit heavier, but
So all of these pieces are for sale, and it looks like you have a wide range of prices. I mean, the lowest maybe around $30, and really something that everyone in every budget could afford. So they're amazing.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a while. I've been kind of navigating exhibitions annually throughout the region here, and so I kind of know what people's price points are, and I try to cater to just about everybody depending on what they're looking for. And of course, the size has a lot to do with the price. So we started off with the fluid style painting, drip and splash, things like that. Kind of graduated into more complex textures and stuff like that. With the yellow, red, and green piece over there and this piece over here, I've started to combine those two methods. Starting off with a base of really heavily textured acrylic and things like that. Then on top of it, I do a splashing and dripping technique, which I think creates even more depth and really just brings these pieces to life just by adding that little extra, something to it. And so I really enjoy that combination. I think it's very visually appealing, and so I think I'm going to continue to do that as I move forward.
So, Nick, you attended John Wood, and what did you learn here? What kind of classes did you take?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I went to John Wood for graphic design. So in the midst of that, I was also studying studio art. So I took like 2D design and stuff like that. I worked with Carol Burns, who was an excellent instructor. I think I actually did my first encaustic painting in her class as well, so that was a lot of fun. And Addie Sieberkrab, she taught drawing and painting and all that kind of stuff. And so I really learned a lot about, you know, the basics of design and the study of art history and things like that from them.
So then you took that from here. What kind of degree did you get?
So from here, the graphic design degree, and then I went on
Okay.
to Culver Stockton, and I got my degree in art studio, where I focused on painting, drawing, sculpture, photography, things like that.
That's great. And Quincy is such a big art scene. There's a lot of opportunity here for people to learn in John Wood and the local colleges, and you know, even taking classes at the art center, you know, so.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, the Art Center is a great resource. The Hannibal Arts Council in Hannibal, Missouri is another great place for classes and things like that. So they're very welcoming when you get involved with them. I mean, there's great people there, and you know, you get to know people, and it's like one big creative family.
Mhm. And everyone is very welcoming and let each other learn from each other, so that's great too.
That's a good point, you know. Getting around other artists and like-minded people is really important to kind of building on, you know, why we do what we do, and to kind of help push us forward even when we kind of hit, you know, like a slump or something like
Uh-huh.
that. Or my favorite of the smaller pieces, this one's called 10-piece, and it's called 10-piece because there's 10 different colors of paint in this piece, and nothing about this painting was planned. I actually chose the colors based off of other paintings that I was doing. I took the leftover paint that was on my palette, and I had this spare canvas, and with each leftover, you know, bit of paint, I hate to waste things, and so I would just use my palette knife, as I do with most of these other heavily acrylic pieces, or heavily textured acrylic pieces, and applied it on there. So, you know, a lot of the times we try to really control how a piece looks, and I thought this was kind of a fun way of just kind of letting go of that control, and just kind of letting it be what it is, and just kind of going with the flow of whatever color, you know, I had left over. So
It looks like there's like reflections off the water and all kinds of different things happening. It could be sky, it could be trees.
that's the beauty of
Yeah.
abstract paintings. You know, 10 different people can look at a piece and get 10 different vibes from it, or see different things from different points of view. So that's one of the things that I love about it. Everything on this side is also a part of, you know, the acrylic textured series of work. This piece specifically was actually a canvas that I built while I was at Culver. So it's actually I don't know how I should put this. It's like a double stacked stretcher. So there's a 12 by 12 inch stretcher, which makes up the outside, and then on top of that, there's like a 6 by 6 or an 8 by 8 inch stretcher that I connected, and then wrapped the canvas around it to give it this depth that kind of pops out from the wall. I'm not sure why I did that. I just wanted to see if I could, I guess, and actually make it work,
Sure.
and it worked out really well. It's the only one that's like that, but it's not to say it. Sort of how I like to combine the different methodologies and things like that. Whereas, you know, inspired by Pollock and the drip and splash paintings, I try to do things different from the all over method. However, when I came back to acrylic textured stuff, I actually went back to sort of what I learned from him as far as the all over method. And you might notice that with some of these, like, there's really no focal point. It almost looks like this is a chunk of something larger, something, you know, that was like cut out of maybe something that was infinitely larger.
Yeah.
And I really like that. It really kind of plays around with the idea of space and visual space.
we'd like to invite the public to come take a look. So when you come on campus, just make sure you have your mask, and if you're sick, stay home. So the college is open Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and till noon on Fridays. So Nick has a website. You guys can check that out too.
Yeah, absolutely. My website is www.ndsgalleryartist.com. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. That's pretty much it. I want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to do this little walkthrough and for allowing me to show in this great space. The Heath Center Art Gallery is such a beautiful venue to show at, and I'm just really happy to have my work up here. So thanks.
Yeah.